This podcast provides a platform for our guests to share their experiences and inspire our listeners to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams. As you listen, we invite you to explore how these concepts apply to your own story. You know what to do. Be great and be grateful. We're mic'd up with Mike DiCioccio. Hey guys, my guest today has 30 years of experience working with artists, creatives, and managers, finding great success working with outliers, free thinkers, misfits, and radicals. He coaches high-value team members, and rather than making the square peg fit the round hole, he helps them find a successful fit no matter their shape. Some of his clients include tobacco-free Western New York at Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center, University at Buffalo School of Management, M&T Bank, Creative Education Foundation, Burchfield-Penney Art Center, the Park School of Buffalo, Assembly House 150, Young Audiences of Western New York, to name a few. You can find him on his bike as an avid cyclist, riding 500 miles across New York State in 7 days to raise funds for cancer research. Welcome to the show, Anthony Billoni.
How you doing, Mike? Glad to be here. Glad to spend some time and talk creativity, coaching, and whatever else you want to bring up.
I'll say this. I mean, we've talked a couple times off camera so far before this interview, and I'm really excited for today because what I've already learned from you and what I know you bring to the table, there's so many different directions we can go in. I want this to be a little bit more like a workshop. I've done this before, and I get great responses from my audience when we do it that way because we want to learn from you, right? You got 30 years experience. We want to take that. We have about 45 minutes together starting right now. And so I have some questions prepared. People can check this out. They can go to Apex Leader Growth, right? Is that right?
.com.
ApexLeaderGrowth.com. You're also on Instagram, Billoni. It's spelled ABILLONI. Where else can we find you?
My LinkedIn page is a good resource. I publish a lot of articles on LinkedIn, have a lot of recommendations from past satisfied clients, which is always nice.
Right.
And you get to see the whole picture there. But pretty much all of my services and workshops and things can be found at Apex Leader Growth.
ApexLeaderGrowth.com. Yeah. If you guys are on LinkedIn, I know many of you tuning in are business leaders, entrepreneurs, business owners. Anthony's building a great following there as well. And I love your content and connecting with you. So let's dive right in. So you're a coach focused in organizational growth and creativity. When did your love for that all begin? Can you walk us through it?
I'd say my love for it grew unknowingly, probably as maybe being the black sheep of my family. My mom and dad were working class folks. They were in business with his brothers as they formed the Colvin Cleaners company. And I always had a leaning toward reading and interest art things and stuff like that. So it was a little different than my two brothers who liked sports and lots of other stuff.
Right.
And from there, as I became a teen and in my college years, I really became involved in artists, musicians, and did a lot of stuff in my 20s with local arts community and the music community. As I hit my teens and young 20s at the same time as the whole punk rock new wave thing happened in 1976, 77, and beyond. And this whole idea of do-it-yourself art making and music kind of took hold everywhere, Great Britain, New York City, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and all the way into these rural places. Devo came from Akron, Ohio. All kinds of bands out of Dead Boys were from Ohio. And Buffalo had some pretty good starters as well. The biggest success story ended up being the Goo Goo Dolls, but there was a lot of bands. Another guy, Vincent Gallo, started out with us, actor, musician. Mark Weinstein, Irv's son, is the world's biggest record store owner of vinyl music out in Los Angeles and San Francisco.
No
And
kidding.
he still plays drums. He's never stopped playing drums since he was a drummer in Buffalo. And he and I were even in a band with the legendary Mark Freeland. So a lot of folks, a lot of kids came out of Kenmore with a lot of creativity.
Yeah.
And I started doing music and art events after working at Hallwall's Contemporary Art Center in the early 80s. It followed with some music and art events, something called the Artists and Models Affair, which some people remember. A lot of fun, a lot of different stuff. I really, a lot of my friends started to gravitate to New York City to make their living and make their mark in the art world. And I would go down and visit them. And New York was the center of it all in the 80s, as far as art making and new ideas and things. And I really fed off of it and tried to bring some of it back and not try and make like a New York scene in Buffalo, but to show off how rich the community was in Buffalo, and it still is. Buffalo has an absolutely incredible art-making community in visual arts, theater, musicians, and on, and all kinds of musicians. Don't get me started. That could be a whole nother show.
Yeah. And I would be willing to do that because I love arts and music. As you know, we're both musicians, so I mean, we could talk about that.
I'll bring a few guests with me, and we could trade it out. But it led me to open up a couple of nightclubs in the late 80s. One called the Jam Club downtown. Downtown when it was kind of a ghost town. You know, the only other place down there was the Continental, which was like the haven for punk rock. And I always had a thing toward dance music, and the whole house music scene was happening. The rave music scene was coming into play in Manchester and different parts of England. So we wanted to do a serious dance club and got like the best DJs in Buffalo to put on music that no one had ever even heard before. And it was a huge success. And then I moved to a smaller place called the Crash Club in Allentown. And then as the 90s hit, I was getting a little tired of being up at 5 o'clock every weekend and wanted to find something new. So the long answer to your short question is I guess I knew I was interested in creativity when in 1995, I found the Creative Problem Solving Institute and the Creative Education Foundation and the School of Creativity at Buffalo State College. And toward the end of the 90s, I ended up working for them with my event management experience. I produced the Institute for a few years and then went on to get my master's degree in creativity. And the joke was that when I told my old friends that I was going to school for creativity, they said, "You should be teaching it."
Right.
And I thought that's funny. And in some ways, I would agree. But what I really came to learn was that there is a science behind the creativity that I talk about today in organizations. And it's built upon bona fide years and years of research, especially in the worlds of psychology, where you would look at the work of Maslow and the self-actualization theory and the hierarchy of needs, and also the whole field of positive psychology, where with our approach to creativity is not to ask what's wrong with it, it's what might be right with it. And if you could boil it down to that simple statement, I mean, I'm oversimplifying it, but that's probably a really good starting point for how we approach our work.
I love that. And I didn't know, I remember you mentioning that you were involved with a nightclub back in like the 80s in Buffalo, but I didn't know all that whole backstory. So appreciate you sharing that, because that gives us a pulse on who you are. Guys, if you're not familiar with Anthony, now you have a good feel from what he's about, and you know, your culture too. And culture is a big part of business. So I actually want to kind of use that as a little bit of a segue. The character of a company, also referred to as its culture, is what the you know, the people that kind of make it up. I don't want to define it because I want you're an expert in this when it comes to culture. So what I want you to do is explain how important that is to an organization, and how can an organization assess their culture? Maybe they don't even realize there's a problem.
Well, I think you've really touched on a most interesting point, and actually a most overlooked point. And let's just look at it from a couple of perspectives. And let's look at it from a perspective of an organization that is looking to hire somebody. let's say you're looking to hire somebody.
Sure.
What is it? And think of, just imagine, maybe for your organization or something, just imagine what is in your head when you're looking to hire somebody.
Yeah, their character is the first thing I think of. Is it someone I'm going to like that is they have the right fit for, again, the culture that we already have going on, or I'm looking to see personally what attributes they bring to the table, and rather than create a position and try to force them into that box, find the person that has these tremendous talents and build something that they can excel in. That's how I approach.
Well, you're the anomaly, and that's exactly what I'm using 50-cent words here today, Mike. So get ready.
Yeah, got a little sweat on my eyebrows here.
Your view of looking at a person's attributes that they walk in the door with, and see how those attributes can fit within your organization, is not the majority opinion. The majority think like, I've got this job. Who's a fit for this role? And they're leaving off the culture that this person is walking in the door with. And there might be, some casual attempts to try and find out more about the person, and they ask, who are your heroes and what fires you up and things like that. But the real effort and work would be to go and find out more about what makes the person tick, beyond just the reason that they're sort of renting themselves to you to do the work, so that they could take what you're paying them for rent for their skill and go and give it back to their family and their boat or their bicycle or whatever else they do with that money. How might this person add layers to our company based on who they are as a person? How exciting would that be?
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for elaborating on that as well. And on similar, we'll kind of stay on this topic. So we're talking about leadership, evaluating talent and, people, right? An organization is as good as its people. So what do you feel makes a great leader? We could talk about how they assess culture and build a team, but what do you think internally makes a great leader?
I'm gonna sound very simplistic and facetious, and we'll build on it from there. But I think there's only one attribute that truly defines a successful leader. It's the person that gets results.
Okay. Yeah, I think that
that might sound like, well, that's obvious, but we often lose track of that in the search or hunt for the inspirer, the teacher, the mentor, the guru, the disciplinarian, all those other things have to end up by leading toward a result within an organization. So if you look at any situation, to me, the most successful organizations deal with their projects and their, the output of their organization, the throughput, not in quarters, but in closed-end loops around projects that need to get delivered and receive value for those projects. And that's the manager's job, is to assure that that value gets delivered, whether it's the manager doing it or the manager is guiding a team of 10,000 people, of which there's several managers under that manager, et cetera, et cetera. But the goal is, an organization doesn't arbitrarily, most organizations that want to live don't arbitrarily make a decision just to do something. They look at their vision, they drop down to their mission and say, our mission and market is defined that in 2021, we should be doing this. And then they go, well, how do we do this? Well, there's your smaller vision of making a project happen and then getting everyone aligned to do it, and then making sure it gets done as efficiently and effectively as possible to maximize value for the organization. So there's where the manager provides the most value. One of the most interesting studies and off-cited studies in the last 10 years was done by another Western New York native who's a Harvard fellow, Teresa Amabile. Her and her husband ended up writing a book called The Progress Principle. And they did this incredible groundbreaking study of having 1,100 employees from about 40 companies keep diaries of their workday. like mundane stuff about their work.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about finding out what they loved and didn't love to granular level. Here's a little quiz for you, and you're probably going to beat me on this one too. So they ended up asking managers what would be the number one or the top things that would incentivize, that would motivate your workers.
Mm-hmm.
What would motivate workers?
That they're listened to and understood. Number one.
You're close. You're close. Most, and again, you're on the right side of the mark where most managers aren't. The most managers set incentives of some form or another.
Well, I was gonna say like you know, I was answering it in what I feel. If you asked employees what's important to them, I feel they would answer to be listened to and understood. I feel like if you ask in most organizations that are either a broken model or pretty common, what managers think people care about is money and incentives to say, you know, you'll get a bonus or it's spiff or you do this, we'll give you that. And that's great. But at the same time, like, you know, every organization can offer those kind of benefits, but I feel like, you know, the companies that do extremely well are the ones that understand what's going on with their employees.
There's that's a part of it, but there's something even more
Sure.
direct than that. And
this is why I have you on the show. I want to learn more from you.
Like I said, you're on the right side of it, and your point about managers is correct, that they were 95% wrong in thinking that incentives were at the bottom of the list when they asked the employees.
Yeah.
What the employees really wanted more than anything was one word: purpose.
Purpose.
You know, and you might get that from listening to them, but you would even make it more efficient by just telling them why they're doing what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Telling them how this project fits in with the larger ecosystem of your department, of your division, of your whole organization, and how proud this organization is to be having this project get done. Absolutely. And then the next thing that employees wanted was managers to basically carry a broom around and keep the path clear. It's obviously a metaphoric broom, but it really means that don't get in the way of me doing the work that you hired me to do. Mm-hmm. Don't hang over my shoulder like a vulture. Don't stand in the way like a traffic cop. Just, you know, I now know what I need to do, and I get it, and I accept it. So now I'm going to do it as quickly and as efficiently as I can. And then the manager is doing his best to look at, are the teams being teams? Are they all working in silos? And those are all the sorts of things people think about managers are doing. But you gotta, if you lose track of all these tasks and pieces of work not being done in search of a result, you're spinning your wheels.
Right.
You know, you can hire me in, and if it doesn't translate down to outcomes, I'll take your money, but I'd rather not. I'd rather help you find ways to keep you in the situation of the work that you're doing. You know, and that's another thing at the basis of my philosophy, is that I'm very big on the concept of situational leadership, which was pioneered by Ken Blanchard, which basically says that situational leadership is leadership based on situations. And the situations are, why do we come to work every day?
Yeah. I think that's great. Like the fact that you hit on purpose and then you ask that kind of open-ended question, why we come to work every day. I feel that ties back to purpose, and everyone needs to be on a collective mission together and feel inspired to do that. Because a lot of times, and I've worked for organizations, and I've worked from the bottom job to high-level management, and you know, it's always been important for me to make sure that everybody knew that. And thankfully, I did work for some great organizations that I learned a lot of those skills from. You did say something, I don't want it to get lost in a lot of this content we have here. You talked about diaries and journaling and how it's important that you were able to hear this organization you're talking about learn from their employees, because they were literally writing on a daily basis, and they're not journaling like about their favorite movie. They're journaling about which is fine too, but they're journaling about what's going on in their life as an employee. Okay, so walk us through that. I know you actually have a workshop on journaling, so I'd love you to elaborate on that, but tell us how important journaling is. And my guess is, I don't like to assume, I hate that word, but I'm guessing most people that are listening to this, if you're a leader in an organization, probably your team is not actively journaling and discussing it as a panel. So do you think I'm right on that? You know better than I do. Yeah. So
right again, Mike. You're 3 for 3 so
I'm
far.
I'm 3 for 3. All right. I feel good. I'm pretty good from the free throw line. That's my spot right there. I could shoot free throws all day long. But go ahead.
I'm almost ready for the bonus round, Mike. And I'll see what prizes I can pull up for you.
Hold on, that lightning round is all for you. Don't you worry. I got it.
Oh my God! Here we go.
All right. So talk about journaling.
Absolutely. I want to just journaling to a lot of people is a bad word. So I want to just and maybe the next word isn't so great either, but it's I'm going to say it anyways, which is self-reflection. Mm-hmm. And what it really comes down to is I actually liken it to a tactic of mental toughness, because what I started journaling at a time in my life where I knew I needed to make some changes, but I just didn't know how or exactly what the changes were. But the essence of it was that after raising my kids with my then wife for 10 years, I felt I was losing my thread in the passion of creativity that I had for much of my life. Much of it was fed into being a good dad and a good husband, and I don't regret any minute of it. But I also felt like if I were truly to live under the pyramid of Abraham Maslow, I do deserve to get to the top of self-actualization. So something said, you need to do something. And I came across an opportunity to start. After I had been journaling for some time, what started to be notable is that just writing about the events of my day wasn't quite cutting it. And I would start to insert questions about why I did this, why I did that, and why wasn't I doing this or that. And it became a personal workshop for me to work through problems and issues and feelings. And that's where I liken it to mental toughness, because many of us, one of the quotes that I use that came from the book Grit was about how Darwin even came to the point of being able to put out his theory of evolution, was that he kept, the biographer of Darwin wrote that Darwin kept all the tough questions that he was asking himself close to the top of his mind. Most of us put tough questions in the back of our mind and say, we'll get to it when we get to it. And a lot of people that I coach say, I want to do this and I want to do that. And I said, well, what's stopping you? And they say, I don't know. And I said, well, look at your calendar right now. Tell me where you have an open spot in your calendar in the next 10 days. Do you have one? They said, yes. I said, put what you want to do as an appointment in those 10 days. And they look at me like, what? I go, yeah. How often? I mean, you and I put these appointments in your calendar. Right. Everybody makes appointments all the time. Make an appointment for yourself.
Yeah. You got to spend time on asking yourself some tough questions, right?
You gotta. Asking is one thing. The answering part is the next thing that you. Sure. And then you may start to find out that you're an unreliable narrator of your own life because you justify things and you allow things to be. So you want to find some close people in your life that have no other agenda than making you be the best that you can be, and just really care about you. And you could share these things with them safely. You don't want things to start, getting public that you don't want public. And I'm not just like everything's open, man. And, I'm saying take care of yourself and protect yourself, but find people that love you and care about you. And there's a little kitchen cabinet that you can share things with. Find a mentor, find a guru or a coach, and get these things answered. That's the real essence of it. And that to me is the real significance and value of journaling, is that you get to some answers that then, situational, lead you to take an action. And that's the essence of my coaching too, is everything is pointed toward, what are we going to do?
Well, there's a quote. Hopefully I can pull it up here quickly. I posted this yesterday. It's from Napoleon Hill, one of my favorite authors and business minds ever in history of the world. And it is that the mind attracts the thing it dwells upon. So if you're journaling and you're mindful of these things and you're actually spending energy on it, chances are that you're going to improve it in some way because you're focused.
That's one of the tactics that I use in journaling myself and that I use with my clients is scripting and affirmations. Neurolinguistic programming is part of that. That grew out of Hill's, or it's alongside of Hill's concept, and it's the truth. I don't know the science behind this, so someone smarter than me can come back and fill in the blanks. But what I've read and what I sort of understand is that your unconscious brain, when it hears something, it accepts it wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
So when I told myself before I had any clients that I'm a coach, eventually that brain that accepted it wholeheartedly started saying, Tony, why aren't you coaching?
Yeah.
Tony, what are you going to do to be that coach? It's not saying that, it's not accepting that Pollyanna, like, oh yeah, Tony, you are a coach. So good job being a coach. You don't have any clients, but you're a coach. No, the brain has some logic to it. And it starts saying, if you are a coach, why aren't you coaching? If you want to be write novels, what's stopping you from writing those novels? And that's then, again, there's a question. You start to find some answers, leads to some actions, and then you get the mental toughness to take those actions.
I love it, man. This is great. Again, I know that you love getting in front of the classroom or a workshop. And now with COVID going on, we're still in the middle of COVID, so you're doing a lot of it online. I get that. Talk about one of your workshops you have. It's called Sense-Making Retreats. I'm really interested in that for myself, but also just what our audience can benefit from learning about that.
Well, I think we can look at what we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes or so, and really that's what I'm talking about when it comes to sense making. To me, sense making within an organization, and I'll get a little high-minded, like woo-woo on you in a few minutes, but let's just see the organization for a second. Sense making within the organization relates to the work that we need to be doing. If your organization says we don't know what we should be doing, and you're still in business, I can help make sense of that, because I could start to say, so what are you doing that's making money right now? What are you doing that's not making money right now? What are you doing that you really love, that really, if people said, in your organization, what's the greatest thing you've ever done? I asked all these kind of open-ended leading questions.
I love that question.
You see that there's values attached to all of it. And what does it say? We have an organization to create value. You want to bring value to other people. That's why people choose to pay you. So that to me is what I mean within an organization about sense making. When you boil that down to an individual, you start to then get into personal mission. And from an individual, you have a career, you have a means to make a living in some form or another, to make your way in the world and trade your value to others that they choose to hand value back to you. But then you get into this woo-woo area about family and intimate individual relations with a partner, with children, with your family. There is where we go into a completely different world. The situation within a business is mostly closed-end and mostly transactional. You go to work, you perform a duty, and they pay you for it. Managers that can't quite express what they want you to do, it's on them. It's not on the worker. That's a problem for the organization if they can't make it so clear to give you a purpose and a description of what you need to do so that you can go do it and keep the path clear. You're working for the wrong organization, first of all. If you can't find your way out, then make the best of it. but it's pretty kind of cut and dry and closed-ended. We could make arguments about how, a strategy goes out, and notice how strategy is not 5 to 10 years anymore. It's 2 to 3 years, because we're in a complete generation of disruption.
Yeah.
When you talk back to family, though, I just wrote a note to someone. Someone's leaving town because of COVID, and where are they going? They're going back to their family. And without thinking, I wrote a response to them on Facebook: families forever. And that's not closed end. So you don't, a lot of families live under transactional situations. Some call them dysfunctional. Some think it's just fine. Mm-hmm. I wasn't brought up that way. I had 2 great parents that loved us in the best way possible. I still see my brothers. I just saw my brothers on Sunday. We talk to each other on a regular basis. Our families get together. Our cousins of my mother's and father's side communicate with each other. We're of that type of family. Mm-hmm. And it has nothing to do with any kind of transaction other than, let's say the L word. It's love. And love is truly boundless. And how that translates back to the transactional nature of your career, here's the simplest answer. And I can't find anyone else, any leader that finally does not say this, that if you do what you love, you will succeed.
Yeah. Well, you brought it up, and so I want you to take an opportunity to give a shout out. That was really well said again. Let's give a shout out where it's due here. Give a shout out to Katie. I mean, because you got all this stuff going on, right?
My new life partner.
There you go. Yeah.
So great. I just 1 month. In fact, 1 month and 1 day, we are engaged. 31 days.
Congratulations and cheers to that.
Here's to you, Katie. I love you dearly.
There you go. Behind every great man, there's a great woman. We talked about that with Dennis DiPaolo, the son of Ilio DiPaolo, was on a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Beautiful man.
Yep. I let him give a shout out to his mom, because all the men in the family, it all leads back to your mother, who's kind of your first love as a boy, right?
My poor mother had 3 boys to raise, and she did quite well with it. She's a beautiful lady. I was lucky to meet Katie through friends, and we knew each other and knew of each other well before we actually decided to start dating. Mm-hmm. And as we somehow, I think others around us thought like, oh, they might be interesting together, or maybe be a sideshow to them. I don't know, but we started talking to each other, and I seemed to hear what I felt was some qualities that matched with me, and I had the courage to ask her out on a date, and she either was crazy enough or had some sense to say yes, and that was 3.5 years ago, and we started talking seriously about the shape of our relationship in 2019. And through the grace of a really close friend of hers, who's a professional in the diamond industry in New York City, we got a ring that seems to be a showstopper with a lot of people.
Good for you, man. Congratulations. I can feel the energy and see the smile on your face that you are in love and loving life right now. You got a lot of great things you're doing.
Oh, that was a curve you just threw at me. I love it though.
No, and that this show is all about the person. It's not so much about the company or the organization or the product or service. It's about the people, man.
Well, and she herself is a really terrific entrepreneur.
Okay.
And she knows how to do it, in that she's aligned herself with some of the top makeup professionals in the world. This group called the Powder Group, based in New York City, but they have members located all over the world. And we're talking the makeup artists who do Hillary Clinton and Joan Jett and Beyonce. And one close friend of Katie's is the guy that designed and led the makeup for several Broadway shows. So she's around people that think in the right way at the top of their game. But also, like me, she was brought up with that kind of work ethic, that you can have all the great thoughts in the world, but nothing gets done unless you get to work. unless you do an action.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And so another thing I'd like to talk about too is you mentioned mission and vision a couple times.
Yeah.
You talked about taking action. I have notes here that value attached to action is when you talked about sense making. So let's kind of go back to the beginning. I skipped over this because the natural progression of our conversation, but I want to make sure we hit on it. And then I have a couple quick wrap-up questions for you. But companies need a mission statement and a vision statement, which is different. And then those kind of connect to a value proposition, which is what gives someone, the difference between them and the next company attempting to sell the same product or service. So can you clearly define those, like mission, vision, and what a value proposition is for anyone who's new? Maybe they're ready to take that leap as an entrepreneur or business owner. They're a little bit afraid and they know these are key terms. Let's make them make sense.
Well, I'm going to say things from my own experience, and I'm also going to say that they're kind of malleable in that people put different approaches to each of those buckets, if you will. Mm-hmm. But from my view, a vision should be a sentence, and it should, and I won't diminish it by saying it's your elevator pitch, but I will say that it should make you, it should give you a twinge when you say it. Mm-hmm. My vision is I profit from helping others become better leaders. You think, oh, he's all about profit. Well, let's think about all the ways that you can profit. And the money is just one of them. So that's why I like that word. Mm-hmm. It's not that I get paid for it, it's that I profit from it. And that means, to me, profiting means I might have learned something, I might have grown, I might have built a relationship, and I might have gotten paid. But one thing I learned along the way is that if you're doing what you love, you will do it for free. And believe me, I have. I continue to. I always, when I meet I just volunteered to help someone who I've known in the field who's starting their own business. And I said, I'll coach you at no charge, mm-hmm. because I believe in that person.
It felt right. Yeah.
It felt right because I know that they're doing what they're doing for the right reason. Mm-hmm. To me, the vision is something that is inspirational, that is easy to capture, and is almost lockstep in what you do all the time. I just rewatched this movie last night, a documentary about the guy Jiro, who is Tokyo's most famous sushi chef, the only sushi chef, 80 years, he's the oldest sushi chef in the world, and he's the oldest person to ever get a Michelin 3 stars. And because the name of the movie is Jiro Dreams of Sushi. And that's it. He eats, lives, and breathes his purpose in life. Could you ask for a better dream? Yeah. So that to me is vision. Mission then gets to be the beginning of a tactical description of how we execute that vision. Mm-hmm. And the value proposition can float somewhere in between vision and mission, in that it's it's the why. Why are we great? It's that Simon Sinek thing. Mm-hmm. Why are you so good? Yeah. Why would people want to buy you instead of me? Mm-hmm. And it's not that, well, I'm a great coach. No, and that's what led to my slogan. And I listened to a lot of people about it because I had a few different ones. And my slogan is get better faster. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like the feel of how that rolls around, because again, it matches my vision of helping people become better leaders, but it also matches another thing about my attachment to situational stuff. Just learning something doesn't mean you're getting better. Mm-hmm. Getting better means that you got new knowledge, you got to try it, and then you assessed how well you did. And those are 3 parts of the coaching funnel that I work with to help people, the development channel in helping people grow in my coaching work. Mm-hmm. Is that we assure that they kind of know what they want to do and that they're motivated to do it. But then I understand whether they have enough chops and knowledge and skill to do what they think they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the kid in the mailroom that wants to be the CEO, I say, so how are you going to do that? And if they surprise me and answer me with a path that makes some sense, I'll say, great, let's try that one thing and see what happens. So then you get to a point of taking an action, and then you assess it. That's the important part. And there's that mental toughness of journaling of, how well did I do? Well, I sort of did okay, and leave it at that. Is that a really good answer? No.
Right.
I had a great coach that he always said, on a 1 to 7 scale, how do you think you did? And if you answered anything less than a 7, he goes, well, what's wrong with that answer? Mm-hmm. He wants everything to be at a 7.
Right.
And what he really means is that he wants you always to be shooting for a 7. And that's a pretty good idea. Saying, well, that was sort of okay, which meant that you were probably a 3 or 4. How are you ever going to get beyond that? Mm-hmm. You know, and what it really comes down to is you got to put the extra work in. And I mentioned it earlier, the book Grit tells the story and the reality through lots of studies is that knowledge alone isn't going to carry you over the goal line. But grit, more often than not, will beat out knowledge in that you have the passion and the drive to keep going. Yeah. And what does keep going mean is that you'll keep taking action.
Absolutely, yeah. Always moving forward is another term that a friend of mine uses. And if you're on the mat, don't stay down there for too long. Get back up. Everyone's going to get back up at some point. I'm going to give you a check mark, Mike. You finally hit a point. Always moving forward. I'm gonna dispute that one. I'm gonna gently push back on it. Cool. Let's do it.
Always moving and assessing. Because if you say you're always moving forward and you find that you're not, you might start to get disappointed. And if you get disappointed, it's going to slow you down, and you don't want that. Mm-hmm. You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And then quick, and I like the idea of we didn't talk about brainstorming. I know that's a big part of what you do and educate on and getting it out. So if you can just speak 30 seconds on the power and importance of brainstorming when someone might feel stuck, or maybe they're going forward. Something I kind of find for myself is in the beginning when I started my business, if I had a success, I wasn't able to always articulate what I did that made it a success. So brainstorming, and working with a panel definitely helps you assess that. So can you explain the brainstorming side of that?
Sure. You can do it by yourself. It always is nice to have others. But just to your last point of how might you articulate successes a little better? Mm-hmm. There's a great tool that lots of us facilitators use is just ask these 3 questions. What happened? So what? And now what? Mm-hmm. So what happened, you then just write down the tactical things as if you're doing a forensic investigation of what are all the things that I did, the steps that I took, the phone calls I made, the meetings I had, the actions I took, without any value to it. Those are just witnessed and true. So what then starts to put some rating, some assertions, value to it. Now, what is the true assessment? Yeah. What am I going to do about the so what? Right. So brainstorming is the 2 things that drive the creative process in every step that we take it through is divergent is one and convergent thinking is the other. Divergent and convergent thinking. And divergent is most associated with brainstorming. And if there is possibly a more important of the 4 values or pieces of divergent thinking, it's deferred judgment. It's don't judge your ideas as being good or bad. Everything that pops into your head or comes out of your fingers on a sheet of paper ought to be neutral, and you should not hesitate to write any of it down. Yeah. You want, and that's so good. Yeah, that is so good. You want volume. You want a lot of ideas. Because if your best idea is your only idea, you're in trouble. And you want to be loose enough, judgment-free enough to allow for wild and unusual ideas. And then you want to be able to look back on the ideas you wrote or the ideas that other people came up with, and just add to them freely, build on them. Those are the 4 concepts that allow for successful brainstorming.
Man, I'm writing down, if your best idea is your only idea, you're in trouble. I think that is so good, because I think a lot of times people try to iron out and spend so much time and energy on the thing that they want before they bring it to market or whatever. And so they just spend all this time on one specific thing, when it would make a lot of sense if they wrote down a lot of ideas and kind of looked at the surface area of it all, and then took that and built kind of a foundation on many things instead of just one idea. We can go on forever here. We are kind of running out of time. I know you got to get going. A couple quick questions here. Take as much time as you want to answer, but try to speed some of the stuff up. So when it's all is said and done, right? You got a 30-year career already. You got, a few more years. You love what you do, so I don't see you retiring early. What is the ultimate accomplishment for you?
Oh, wow. I got to start with my kids.
Yeah. So, okay.
And that goes back to those 2 concepts, how work is a closed-end system and love and family is an open-ended system.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in answering that right off the bat, I'm telling you, I'm living the life of creativity, in that watching my kids become who they are, through anything, and I mean anything, is the ultimate open-ended system of creativity. And then obviously meeting Katie and finding a person who I'm simpatico with, and she's tolerant enough to have me around, is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But then I'd say professionally, the Steve Jobs of my life happened actually twice. Was meeting and working with the co-founder of the creative problem-solving process, Dr. Sid Parnes, who invented the first school of creativity, thanks to the welcome mat laid out by his partner, Alex Osborne. And here at Roswell Park, I was hired by a guy named K. Michael Cummings, who is one of the pioneers in the world of not only tobacco research, but in tobacco policy change. And he was behind, you remember the glassed-in rooms in the smoke-free restaurants in Erie County back in the 80s. That was him. He was on the front end. He worked with the stewardesses in the 70s, I believe, to get the smoking off of airplanes, because stewardesses were coming to Roswell scientists wondering, why are these women who never smoked a day in their life dying of lung cancer?
Yeah.
Well, they were in a tin can for 8 hours a day, breathing smoke as if they were smoking.
Yeah.
So they basically pioneered the study of secondhand smoke here at Roswell. And to be around a guy, and I mean like Steve Jobs type of thinking, where, and again, it's the work. This guy never stopped working. He's retired to be with his family in North Carolina and has a position at a university and continues to fight the good fight about this at whatever age he is. He seems ageless. And what I love about a guy like that, and the same thing with Sid Parnes, is they love what they do. And they become, you can argue with them about the tactics, but the purpose and belief in what they do is unimpeachable.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It ties back to the purpose again, because they're not working anymore if they're just on purpose and doing it for the fact that they want to continue driving that. That's amazing. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah.
I want people to say that about me.
Yeah.
He was unshakable in the belief of what he was doing.
So if you could be known for one thing, that's another question I have. If you could be known for one thing, what would it be? Is that it right there?
That's a very, I don't know. I could answer that. I really want to. Maybe one thing I'm playing around with is demythologizing coaching. That we're not gurus. I'm just a guy that's going to help you get better faster. Instead of 6 months, we could get something done in a month and see what happens. And you have, and what I've learned is that, that I can, if I could give people all the tools they need and know just when to use them, I'll consider myself a success.
I love that. And something that I love about Get Better Faster is that it's not just do things faster. You're improving. It's better. Because we live in a world that everything
is the key word.
Everybody wants it now. They wanted it 5 seconds ago. And someone I follow and consider to be a great business mind is Gary Vaynerchuk. And he says, if your business helps make something better and eliminates time, you have a great service. And that's exactly what you do. You're improving something and you're eliminating time. That's going to do really well. So obviously you're doing the right things and you're going in the right direction. A couple of things I want to hear from you. You mentioned a couple books. One was Grit, right? Tough questions that you bring those to the top of the mind is what you talked about there. But name a couple favorite books, podcasts, inspirational content that our listeners can benefit from diving into.
Well, Grit is by Angela Duckworth. Okay. Teresa Mabile and her husband wrote the book, The Progress Principle. That's where I was quoting the work about the workers' diaries. Work by Adam Grant, Give and Take, is another important concept for me. What others are really exciting for me? I read a lot of fiction. I love, to get, I'm a very big, I actually liken a lot of my work to the 40s noir detectives who really lived their whole life outside of society, didn't trust much of anybody, but by not trusting much of anybody, they knew the truth when they really saw it. That to me is kind of boiling down their hard-boiled attitude. So I've read pretty much everything by Dashiell Hammett and Raymond Chandler. And to me, the modern day voice in that world is a young woman named, Megan Abbott, who has written several books. And she actually had one of her books turned into a series on USA called Dare Me about these, it's a real pop boiler about high school cheerleaders. And it's really kind of crazy, but she definitely gets the essence of 40s noir really, really right. And I love that a lot.
I love that you shared that too, because something that I try to remind myself to do every week is spend some time for myself to go away to Fantasyland and like just put a movie on or it doesn't always have to be business education, because I feel like I live in that at least 12 hours plus a day. And I really don't watch movies or TV shows. I'm kind of out of tune with what's going on with that stuff. My entertainment is like the Buffalo Bills on Sunday in the fall. That's my entertainment. That's kind of hopefully it's not a sitcom. Sometimes it is. And you can see I'm a Bills fan. But it's important, I think, to just let your brain kind of just chill for a second so it can rejuvenate. So I'm glad that someone in your caliber is like, hey, go read a fiction book too. It's okay. Like, it's okay to do that. A couple more here. Did you learn a new skill or maybe have a positive takeaway from quarantine?
My one of my first impressions early on was by having the ability just to stay home or being forced to stay home and not have to run back and forth to work. I found I had a lot more time to take care of things that were on my to-do list. So I kind of realized I wasn't a procrastinator. I was a put too many things on my plater. I probably became a little more organized because I was able to point things toward focusing. I learned how to use the Mural interactive whiteboard, and I'm actually using that professionally now.
Very cool.
Playing around with some new concepts for an actual hands-on journaling system. And I'm actually building a whatever comes of this with another creativity friend, In fact, I'm leaving this call to go make, and I started a podcast just prior to COVID with a creativity colleague named Kim McKernan, who's
Cool.
starting a great business on her own in branding. And we have a podcast called Creative Flow. It's found on anchor.fm and other platforms, where we feature a graduate from the Center for Studies in Creativity at Buffalo State, and all the great things that they're doing with their degree out in the world.
I see us working together. I went to Buff State. I'm a proud grad from there. So if you're highly involved with Buff State, I see us maybe doing a workshop together with people.
Sure,
I love helping people out, and I enjoy getting in front of the classroom too, not to just stand up there and say, listen to me, but when I see people working on something and the light bulb moments going off, and I just see everyone's kind of, it's, there's a lot of learning going on and inspiration, and those eyeballs of like, ooh, it just clicked. I just love that. So I would love to do something together. Maybe a joint workshop would be great. Final two questions. To leave our audience, my mission statement is leave them inspired to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams. So if you were to talk to them right now so they can be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams, what would you tell them?
For 1 month, at the end of your day, write down 3 things you're grateful for. And at the beginning of the day, write down 1 or 2 things that you'd like to do that you haven't done, and then go do it.
Yeah,
that's the starter kit for journaling. You
know why I'm laughing? I laugh because my last question is, what are 3 things that you're grateful for?
Well, I'm not. I'll give you my most recent ones, because I actually do this. And I have an app that I use, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Here's what
Cool.
I call it my Joy app.
Joy, yeah.
So, and look at this. I've been doing it for 341 days, but that's just here. I've been writing it on paper long before.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So here's what I wrote. Here's what I wrote yesterday. I wrote something about my kid getting support from another professional in the field, getting inspiration from the prayer of St. Francis, how I prayed for a sick friend and a neighbor who just passed on for their whole family, and how I have a new lead in business.
Yeah. Say it again. How you have a new...
I'm working on a new lead for a
new business client.
So because I actually, believe it or not, had trouble enjoying gratitude in real time. So this is a purposeful effort to do that.
No, I mean, and I think it's important for our audience to understand that you and I spend time, we carve time out of our day to be in gratitude. And if someone's tuning in and they've listened to me multiple times, I hope you're not sick of me telling you this, because I believe it's so important to really be genuine when you're in gratitude, because just saying things that you're thankful for, that's nice, but it's not what we're talking about. We're talking about when you're in the state of actually thinking about, I'm grateful that I have paper that I could print my notes on so I can do this. I mean, as little as that, I'm grateful for the light right here so people can see me, the microphone. How about this? I want to just say one thing that comes right to the top of my mind. I'm grateful for you being here today, your time, and everything that you just said. I have my own, I can write a book now on all your notes, right? I'm going to call it Get Better Faster.
Photograph that and send it to me so I can see what you did. I want
to Get Better Faster by Mike DiCioccio. I don't know who this Anthony guy is.
Oh my God.
No, never. Hold on.
Marcelino? No.
No, I love this. This was awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to say before going off to your next call?
Just keep finding out what you love, and the simplest thing that I got that was the hardest thing to really home in on and follow is from Brian Tracy, is figure out what you want to do and don't do anything else.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Focus on what you're passionate about.
Well, he calls it the focal point.
The focal point. This is a lot of fun. There's so many different. It's going to be challenging to come up with a clever title for this episode because there's so many different ways it can go. Thank you so much for being a great friend, a great inspiration to me.
Yeah, it's been great getting to know you, Mike. I really appreciate it, and I look for more stuff that we can do together.
Yeah, let's stay connected for sure. We're both right here in Buffalo. No excuses. All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Bye.
I love you guys, and thank you so much for tuning in. Check out more show notes and information on each episode at mikeduppodcast.com, MIKED uppodcast.com. We're powered by Social Chameleon. You guys know what to do. Be great and be grateful.